Another thing that I'm interested in, because one of the things that I would expect to see if the Supreme Court does strike down may issue permitting for gun, concealed carry in this brewing case out of New York, is not just that you'll have to go after the laws that are in the other 7 states that have may issue, but also that you'll see this tactic of incremental changes like you saw in DC's with their gun carry law. They had a total ban at one point that got struck down by the federal judge. Then they instituted a may issue law, and that got struck down too. And now they've gone to a shall issue system, but it's one of the stricter shall issue systems in the country in terms of what you actually have to do to get a permit. There's the training requirements higher than most states. It's more expensive. It takes longer, and the permits are for a shorter period of time. Have you seen anything like that come out of these stun gun cases where you'll have legislators say, okay, you can buy a stun gun, but we're going to test the limits of how much we can restrict it?
Well, I have already seen that in Hawaii. So on January 1st of this year, due to one of my lawsuits, stun guns were and tasers legalized by the legislature, and they put in a new law that has background checks and a number of other restrictions of where you can purchase it. You have to purchase it either while you're on the mainland, the continental United States, or while from a licensed taser dealer, and they're required to give you, at least some safety class. With it's honestly more restrictions in most states towards handguns, but they knew that they had to do it, and so they went right up to the limit of what they thought they could get away with. And right now in the Hawaii legislature, they're trying to pass a bill that puts in a number of sensitive places. That's areas where you can't carry
for tasers and stun guns.
Correct.
Oh wow.
And that's something we're fighting right now. Thankfully, we managed to fight the first draft of the bill, and they were and we're still fighting. And we're pretty confident we'll be able to kill the bill in total. But it's they'd rather not have you carry in government buildings. That's a big sticking point that they're trying to get us with. But right now people are carrying government buildings, and there's absolutely no issues. And the police, no one's actually complaining. It's just simply a number of politicians. So yeah, we're pushing back, and this isn't something you don't just win and get to go home and rest on your laurels. I myself and several of my clients are very busy in the legislature right now trying to preserve what was accomplished with the Hawaii taser litigation. But in other jurisdictions, and also in Michigan, they have a requirement that you get a CCW in order to get and go through the CCW training, which really just doesn't make sense, for a stun gun. And that's, that's just simply the nature of it. There's a lot of people that like to put in feel-good measures just because it makes them feel better, and those aren't, and especially in the case of stun guns, I haven't seen anything that's particularly tied to any sort of real-world, issue. It's, but, at the end of the day, though, they have to let you carry it. They have to let you, especially in Hawaii, they have to let you own it, and that's the court rules. So you're going to see a similar model when the Supreme Court issues. I guarantee you that you're going to see a rise in training requirements and good moral character stuff. Trying to kick people out, just on small technicalities. The rumor is New York has actually hired many people in, to review people's records and just go through all the checks for new permit, because they know they're going to lose. So they want to be able to scour through people's applications. And, I think, I suspect a big part of that is you're going to be trying to find whatever that reason they can, other than not having a quote unquote good cause, to try and deny those permits.
Yeah, we don't know exactly what the Supreme Court's going to rule here, and we're going to be covering that closely at the Reload. But I think it's fair to assume that if they do throw out may issue, that this path that you just talked about here is what gun rights advocates are going to have to deal with in the aftermath of that. But you mentioned Hawaii there a couple times, and one of the other things I wanted to talk to you about is your litigation in Hawaii, because you are kind of the only person who's doing Hawaii gun rights litigation right now. And you've had some very well-known cases. You mentioned one, Young, which is probably what, if the average person listening would know you for, as if they know who you are from your litigation in Young, because you got a federal court to overturn Hawaii's ban on open carry before the Ninth Circuit reversed it, and now that's pending before the Supreme Court, as you mentioned. But you also have done a number of cases in Hawaii, which frankly, from my view, is one, Hawaii is the most has the strictest gun laws in the country. There's some competition in New York or California or New Jersey, but really, Hawaii is kind of an outlier even beyond those states in a lot of ways. And two, doesn't really get a lot of attention. You don't hear a lot of people talk about Hawaii's gun laws, even in the gun rights community. And you don't see a lot of gun rights, groups filing suit on, Hawaiian laws. And so what is it in your mind that has made you want to pursue cases out of Hawaii, and why do you think it doesn't get the same sort of attention that cases that California's laws or New Jersey's laws get?
Well, Hawaii is where I'm originally licensed, and I have a number of family there, a lot of friends. I mean, I lived out there for quite a while, and the number one reason why I want to pursue it is because no one else wants to. I have friends and family there. That all have complained for a long time about the state of the firearms law and the fact that, the national groups are, they focus their attention on, some of the more, the continental United States. So, it's, to me, I don't believe that an American state should be just simply completely out of a national conversation on a constitutional right. I mean, the Constitution applies to the whole United States, not just, the continental United States. And so, it's something that, after McDonald, I noticed that everyone in all the May issue states were having CCW challenges and not Hawaii. So I decided, I was just going to pair up with a friend of mine, Richard Holcomb, to give Hawaii, to a degree, representation in the federal court system, and it's, let's see. So, I've just, that's been about 11 years. So, I've just, and also a big thing is Hawaii has just such egregious laws,
Well, what are some of those laws that you've challenged, and especially some of the ones you've actually had success on, because you've won some cases, right?
Well, yeah. So I'll give you guys a couple highlights. I think you guys will enjoy this. So Hawaii had a ban on green card holders, and it was one of two states post-Heller that had a ban on permanent residents owning firearms. So, and there was actually pushback. In 2014, I managed to get that law overturned. Afterwards, the city and county of Honolulu put in a restriction that said, well, okay, so green card holders are allowed to own them, but they have to go to their home country to get clearance in order that they're qualified under Hawaii law to own it. So my client happens to be from England. So we had sort of very, I thought it was sort of a humorous or ridiculous, I think is a better word, situation where someone that's from England, where we fought the Revolutionary War from, had to get permission from England in order to own a firearm in the United States. So that restriction went away after we filed a federal court action. We actually went to the Ninth Circuit, prevailed on attorney's fees on that because they weren't really too pleased about paying us afterwards. But and then after that was over, there was remaining pushback. They kept a ban on American Samoans, people specifically who had been born on the island of American Samoa, from owning firearms because they were neither an alien nor a citizen. So I had a client, he served in the Air National Guard, lived in Utah for a time, moved to Hawaii for work, and they said, you can't own a firearm. It was like, how's this possible? I mean, this is a race-based restriction, effectively. You know, people from other countries and people from the continental United States can own them, but only people that are American Samoan are not allowed to own firearms. And so I went to court, and I just, you know, I felt pretty strongly about that. This is basically the last race-based restriction on firearms in the country. And thankfully, we won on that issue, and we've gotten rid of the ban on American Samoans. Two others that I've won on is last year, Hawaii law prohibits you if you've been convicted for a crime of violence. However, there's a very specific, that means something under the law. You know, it's, and both the city and county of Honolulu and the county of Hawaii decided that they were going to go somewhat beyond what that definition is. So I had a guy in the Big Island of Hawaii, it's the county of Hawaii, who all he did was he yelled at his neighbor. And then his neighbor started yelling at him. The police showed up because of a third neighbor's noise complaint. They just wanted, you know, them to turn down the noise. Police ended up arresting my client for a disorderly conduct. And again, all he did was get into an argument with another person over a fence, mind you. And they said, this is a crime of violence. You can never own a gun again.
Wow.
And, you know, so we filed a federal lawsuit on his behalf. And thankfully, we've gotten, you know, they agreed to an injunction after the court made it very clear that they didn't have a chance there. And so we prevailed. So they've gotten rid of that policy where basically any crime of disorderly conduct is, they were just prohibiting people for life, you know, including yelling at a person. So we had two other clients in the city and county of Honolulu. They had a similar situation. They had agreed to tickets. You know, it's called an infraction. You know, it's legally in Hawaii, it's the same as getting a speeding ticket. And they agreed to these infractions specifically so they could keep their gun rights, you know, and along with another, you know, they pay a $50 ticket, it's done, that's life. Well, the city and county said, no, those are crime of violences. Well, that's legally not even a crime under Hawaii law. And they were saying lifetime ban. So one of my clients, he lost his job as a security guard, you know, where he had to carry a firearm. He'd taken a huge financial cut, you know, having switched jobs. And he, you know, another of my clients, he, you know, he lost his firearms rights, again, just for a ticket. You know, he was, and, you know, we filed a lawsuit for both of them. And thankfully, we were able to get another stipulated injunction for those two gentlemen, you know.
And didn't one of your most recent cases lead to a new law being considered in Hawaii as well right now?
Yes, so right now, in a few years ago, we challenged 4 different registration issues. 2 of them were with the county, 2 of them with the state, and that's called Yukitaki v. Connors. And we were able to settle with the city. And in the permit process in Hawaii is it is very egregious. You have to. It's basically it's 3 trips to the police department. You have to go apply for the permit to acquire, wait 14 days, and then you have to physically come back to pick up the permit. and then go pick up the firearm, then physically come back with the firearm to be registered and inspected.
Right.
So
And that's just to own a gun, right?
Yeah, that's
just to own a handgun, which obviously is wildly different from, say, Virginia or most other states where you can buy a gun, you pass the federal background check, and you walk out same day.
If it's your first gun, you also have to take a training class. So with the city, we had just a few points. I mean, this is the way they've been doing things since 1934. And why not email the permit to the person who wants to purchase the firearm, rather than make them wait? Remember, the police station's only open a few hours a day during working hours. So if you want to buy a gun, you have to take the firearm, take a day off work to go do this firearms process. So, so when they say you have to come to the station to pick up the permit, what they're really saying is you need to take at least half a day off work. So we were like, why can't you just email it? And, under threat of a federal lawsuit, okay, we'll put in we'll start emailing it. And we also got them 1 day a week to extend the hours past the working period. So I think it used to be 4 o'clock, I want to say, and now they're open on Wednesdays till 7:45. And they agreed to stay open as late as you have to be in line by 7:45, and they'll serve you. So sometimes they're there till like 9.
Yeah.
But that's what we settled with the city, and that's permanent. That's through settlement. The two things that we got against the state is they, the part where you have to register the gun at the police station. I have a photo that I submitted to the court where there's this giant line of people just waiting, to register their firearms first thing in the morning. It's, and unload. It's frankly, we explained to the court. I mean, if anything, it's frankly not all that safe. There was just a woman beaten in front of that same police station, and the police weren't able to stop it. Now you've got, 75 people, waiting in line with unloaded firearms. So what we did there is we got that law enjoined. That was state law. We got it enjoined. They had to go to the register it. They've replaced that with an online system.
Yeah.
So now instead of having to register the firearm, you can put the information into the online system. And that's already in place. It started on January 1st.
Yeah.
The second part of that was, in order to buy a handgun, you have to get the permit to acquire. And once it's issued to you, it's only valid for 10 days.
Right.
So in light of everything else, that's a real big time constraint. You're taking lots of time off work right away. But here's the kicker. The rifle permit is valid for a year. And so one of our arguments to the court is, hey, if everything's working just fine for these rifle permits that are a year, why can't you do the same with a handgun permit? And so the state appealed both those rulings up to the Ninth Circuit, and we're filing our answering brief in the next couple of weeks on that. That law was stayed. That part of the ruling was stayed, so that's going up on appeal right now. But the registration, that's already in place.
Yeah, but I think that all gives a pretty good insight into how much stricter Hawaii's gun laws are than even deep blue states like New Jersey or California.